Yep, welcome back. You've made it to Season 3, Episode 5 of Podcast Bozo, where you came just in time to join us in a conversation about advertising, marketing, snake oil salesmen, guys with trench coats. Here with me, as always, we have locally renowned beer server Sean and celebrated artist and animator Eli. My name is JJ, but you can call me Fabio Sorgaccio. As always, it's good to be with y'all.
Good name.
I want to mention first that this podcast is supposed to be a group effort. We want to hear from you, so please visit podcastbozo.com or our social accounts using @podcastbozo and chime in to our conversations. We will do our best to engage with you online. Now that we have you trapped here, please donate to our Bozo Fund and we will give you a shout out, read whatever you leave in the donation message, or even write you a little story. It's all up to you. All you got to do is donate. And speaking of which, Austin B., thanks for your donation this week. We're going to get Cheek on that right away. He's going to be giving that speech. Just for some context, Austin B. donated some money, and in his message, he asked for Cheek to give the Any Given Sunday speech. And so we'll be seeing that. We'll be seeing you from Cheek in the next week or two. So, Cheek, it was your birthday last week. We forgot to mention it in the episode beforehand. You went to a hotel. You got bougie. Someone waxed your feet. Tell us about it.
It was a lovely weekend. We spent Friday kind of treating ourselves, which was my birthday, the 29th. Share a birthday with Oprah Winfrey. Much love, Oprah, my girl. Hope she had a good one too. We all the best got pedicures. We went to a brewery. We had a wonderful charcuterie and cheese board. I got a little boozed up, and then we went to a real fancy hotel for the night. And there was a jacuzzi in the room, maybe a fireplace, and just like a king size bed and the softest sheets you could imagine. It was a wonderful day. It was a wonderful, wonderful day. And thank you to everyone who sent the birthday wishes my way. I appreciate it.
And Cheek, it was your dad's birthday yesterday, so you guys have a quick succession of birthdays as soon as your mom hits, huh?
Everyone in the family winter birthdays within like 2 months.
That's why you guys are all skiers.
My sister was a couple weeks ago. My brother's in a couple weeks.
Oh, your brother caps it off. For some reason, I thought you capped it off. No, obviously not, though.
Well, nice try.
Well, how's your week been? We haven't been doing a lot of conversation at the beginning, so I want to hear about school. How's school going?
I failed out. I've just been doing my own thing now. I started OnlyFans for chili dog content, and it's been pretty good. My name is
that sounds good.
Devilish Imp 69. Give me a follow.
That reminds me, I started an OnlyFans for Cheek, so keep a lookout for that coming in the following days. That's something I wanted to put forward.
What kind of paywall do we have to get through to access your chili dog content?
Like how much do we have to pay?
DM me after for specific.
How do we find it?
Just look up OnlyFans Devilish Imp 69.
I love it.
And it seems like every time we start a podcast, we should really end it within 10 minutes. But we trudge on through the war. So as we said, today we're talking about advertising, marketing, that kind of thing. And if you guys oblige, I will jump into the topic. I come from being in digital marketing, but I'm actually taking a look at it from a more like billboards, print, even like the copy. I do the more data side of things, but this is more like the copy that you read, like the creative side of things and the decisions that go into it are kind of all I don't know. To me, it's something that your eyes should be open to, and there's a lot of manipulation and psychology and subliminal messaging that goes on, and it can be kind of creepy. And so I thought that a little awareness never hurt nobody. So I thought I'd bring this up. So the first thing I wanted to start with is first the history of ancient advertising, or advertising in general, but starting with ancient advertising. And I'll end with this section with E. You got some 1900s advertisements to show up, but we'll get there first. We're going to actually start in ancient days, the Egyptian times.
Aztecs.
Egyptian times.
3000
BC. In 3000 BC, you might not think of advertising, but signs were etched to get the word out about things. Word of mouth helped distinguish businesses from others in terms of slave trade in clothing. So that was kind of like the early ages of ancient advertising. But
do you think
then
that,
we get to, what's that?
Do you think that that could be more considered, PSAs and not necessarily like advertising as we think about it today?
It just depends how you're thinking about advertising today. I would say, like, in terms of the slave market and distinguishing your clothing brand and using word of mouth for that, that's absolutely a technique still employed today. That's like influencer marketing, basically. You have Jonah John Farrow walking around with your classic garb on, and people are like, I really like the way that guy swags around in the sand. And then all of a sudden you see a bunch of people wearing purple, I don't know, whatever
purple sandals,
whatever ancient Egyptians wore. Yeah,
they have signs like 10 reasons why you need these purple sandals etched into the stone.
Well, so then the next spot we get to is ancient Rome, and this was actually, I wrote down, the onset of graffiti, and I thought that'd be interesting for E, because a lot of prostitution was starting to be publicized, and so you couldn't formally publicize your prostitution, so people would go around, and they found at Pompeii like ancient scribblings on walls where ads weren't supposed to be on where to find your local giddy up, and basically the advertising from that spawned into businesses advertising, and there started being the same things were developing, like more signs, more clothing brands, and you started seeing a lot more shops pop up in different ways to sell things. And then you hit the Middle Ages after that. And that's where things get real advanced, because then you're getting into, you have currencies flying around after ancient Rome. You have actual like established storefronts where you're trying to attract travelers, because like the ideas of capitalism are being born, population is booming. All of a sudden you have more people from out of town that aren't locals, that don't know the area that you're trying to like grab and get their attention. So early identification of your business becomes more important. Then in early Chinese dynasty days, I think it was called the New Song era, had the first printed ads. The first printed ad ever was for Quality Needles. It was a family business.
Needles?
Needles. For what I assumed to be like needle point, or sewing and threading and things like that. This also marked one of the earliest uses of logos. And logos at the time were basically just like a picture of a rabbit for this needle company. Before that, actually, in the ancient Grecian times, the logos of the time were something more like there were auditory logos. So in ancient Greece, prostitutes, it always starts with prostitution. I'll tell you, I got to get into the sex business, but it started with tapping, and you would have like an auditory logo in like terms of your tap. So you could tap you have a distinct tap, someone would hear that, and they would always automatically associate that with your business in like a public place. And it was a discreet way to signal that you were offering certain services as a prostitute. So cheek, your tap might sound something like, which means like only hand stuff. But
Genius.
But yeah, so that was kind of, that's going back a little bit. Then we get back to the the early Chinese dynasties that had logos, trademarking, and then you get early books, which were before the printing press, like artists and things like that would write these early books, or not artists, but like people who wrote books, book writers. They would write books, and then it would take a lot of time to write an individual book. I need to either hire someone or write it yourself. That takes a lot of time to write each book, so you need to pay that time off. And how they did that was they'd put coupons and advertising spam between the pages. Like I said, this is before the printing press, so this was their kind of way to you could pay for like a slot between pages for your advertising. Obviously, there's no targeting for this other than maybe you have an idea of who would read this book. So then we go on to 1704. The first newspaper ads appear in the Boston Newsletter. It's the world. So you get before that, you get the printing press and publications, but the first continually printed newspaper doesn't come till 1704. Because there's newspapers, there's magazines, but they're not continually printed until 1704, when the Boston Newsletter creates the world's first continually issued paper. The first ad agency was called White Bull Holmes, and not Homes, but Holmes. Those are three last names, I'd assume. And there was actually it lasted a long time. It started in 1786 and went to 1980. And with that came this monopolization of like buying ad space and selling it, and this like contentious market that developed in 1848. That basically there were like spots and advertisements you could reach out, but in 1848 was the time labeled of like, this is when people were competing for spots in the newspaper. That's when people start saying, oh, like this is the first time that I could read of where you hear like the old curmudgeons being like, oh, the youth these days, like all this commodityism and like advertising's ruined the world. And obviously we hear that every 10 years with a new technology over and over again. But yeah, so that's leaving the space in the pages. That's kind of an industry new there. And then in 1922, Cheek, do you know what happens?
1922. The Great Depression. The Roaring Twenties.
What technology was invented?
The Great Gatsby.
The typewriter.
No. 1922. E, do you have any? Do you have any guesses, E? It's big.
I would say the first supercomputer was invented in 1922.
That's a really good guess. Yeah. 1922, the radio came into existence, and quickly after the birth of radio advertising, said, voila, I'm here, and people started buying time the same way they did a newspaper. Newspapers paved the way. People were like, all right, radio's a new medium. Let's hop on that paddy wagon and get smooching. So the first aired TV commercial then comes in 1941, which is Bulova watches, and their slogan was the world runs on Bulova time or something like that.
I have a Bulova watch.
Do you actually?
Yeah, I could go get it for you.
No, it's okay. Take a picture of it and we'll post it on the social media.
It doesn't work anymore.
Uh-oh.
But sometimes I still wear it to fancy occasions because it's my only fancy watch.
That's nice.
And I just keep the time hands always on midnight because it makes me feel dangerous.
Hey, Cheek. What happens at midnight for you?
Whew, that's the thing, Jay. You can never know.
Turn into a werewolf?
Only if there's a full moon.
You take your pants off?
You have to be there to find out.
I got this image now of Cheek in a Hawaiian and jeans just tearing through those jeans with his legs exploding with hairy werewolf muscles.
I have an I have an image of Cheek taking girls back to his dorm room and being like, I turn into a werewolf at midnight. And they're like, why is that? He's like, because there's a full moon. He pulls down his pants and shows his
Oh, that's ridiculous.
All right. So Belova, we moved past that. That was in 1941. Then the science of advertising started to take hold. In 1960, the golden age of advertising began. That's like the madman, giant ad agencies, drinking, boo-ba, la-la, all this stuff kind of coming into play. Scientists start coming into it, psychologists, focus groups, studies. That's when you start seeing, like I said, this madman's type era where there is a little bit of science, but it's also like you're just throwing images and art at people, and like there's technology allowing you to reprint stuff, and cars are in full bloom, and highways start going, so you get billboards and all that kind of stuff. So you get all this print advertising, so you get artists and images and all this stuff kind of playing into this bigger picture of advertising. And yes, there was some science into it, but it was still the early ages. And you could get away with anything because like sexism was still thriving, and all this other stuff, because basically like women were used as objects during the time. And cigarettes, I don't know. I just imagine cigarettes, cowboys, like objectifying people. And
yeah, didn't they advertise that cigarettes were healthy for you?
Oh yeah, because no one knew.
And Coke as well.
Yeah. It was dumb. I mean, at some point, Coke had actual
Remember
cocaine.
when Coke used to be in Coca-Cola?
Say it again?
That's what I was saying, is when there was cocaine in Coca-Cola.
Yeah. I remember that, Cheek, back in the day.
Dude, kids were probably jacked up running around.
Yeah, dude, imagine going... All right, my favorite era was like the 1950s. Like, just imagine this. You could go to... You could go to a McDonald's. What am I doing here? You could go to a McDonald's. You could buy a pack of cigarettes for 5 cents. You could buy a Coke that had cocaine in it for like 1 cent. And then you could buy a burger for like 5 cents as well.
Insane.
Just imagine that day. And then you smoke it inside while drinking your beer there too. It's just like...
You're living a short life, but it's a fast one.
Drinking and driving wasn't a thing. There weren't seatbelts. People were just...
flying out of windows.
The seat of their pants all the time. Just going.
Ragdolling.
Oh, man. What a life. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of bad things about those times, but the golden age hits. You get scientists. That's the onset of like actually thinking about what the customer wants. Still, it's argued that like you would make a brand and then you would show people ads, and it was whatever you wanted. Like there's still an argument for that. Like there wasn't much nuance to it quite yet. But then we hit 1994. That's when the first digital banner comes about. So Bio-Digital Jazz has already taken hit.
Bio-Digital Jazz?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bio-Digital Jazz, man. We were jamming.
So yeah, so that's when you get people searching the internet, and then people start putting up digital banners. And believe it or not, the first digital banners was just someone would just put an ad out there. It was just as relevant as a billboard. Anyone who drove would see a billboard. Anyone who had the internet and search it would see this digital banner. It had no relevancy to it. Millions of people on the internet, anyone could be seeing it. It was pretty wet and wild with your money. But then in 96, targeted ads are made, and basically Google takes hold of that in 2000, and they say, all right, because before that, search engines or aggregations of the internet had all these tickers and all these things, and it wasn't that simple or intuitive. And then Google's like, well, why don't we just make the portal to the internet? And it's just simple. What do you want to search with an I'm feeling lucky button? Which, by the way, I didn't use until today for the first time.
I still don't know what that does.
I've never used I'm feeling lucky.
Isn't that crazy? It's been around. Why haven't I used it?
What does it do?
It's a random search. It's a random search. You click it, and then it will like generate something. Like, so today I used it, and I clicked it, and then it like did like a spin thing, like a roulette table, and then it said, I'm feeling hungry. And then I clicked it again, and it showed me, and it just took me to great food recipes or something like that. I only used it once. So it was scary. Maybe
It's pretty lame. I feel like it's tailored towards more benign things. Like you're not going to get like satanic cult rituals.
Yeah. I feel Satan.
Something off the beaten path.
Yeah, like show me like claymation. I don't know. I had
instead of biodigital jazz would be I'm feeling lucky.
Yeah, just not even just like random combinations of words was what I would think it came from. But yeah, it's like there's probably like 6 categories you can choose from or something lame like that. But Cheek, you said you couldn't find it. If you go to google.com, did you do that?
Chrome's my browser, so whenever.
Page.
Yeah.
Yeah, go to google.com, not like the default new tab.
The dangus.
It's actually if you have to code it in the IBM software.
It took me to
What'd you get?
Funny cat memes page.
Yeah, it is real lame stream.
Lame stream.
So yeah, you get targeted ads in the thousands. That's where we left off. But if you're using I'm feeling lucky, send us if you get something good, let us know. If you get something crazy like lapis lazuli hairdos, shoot it our way. But 2005 to 2012 we're familiar with, so I kind of summed them all up. In 2005, advertising starts going social with Facebook and the acquisition of YouTube by Google, and then the acquisition of Instagram by Facebook. That starts building, and that's if you know anything about what's that?
I was gonna say it's crazy. I definitely remember there being days before YouTube had ads on it. Do you guys remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't far away.
And now you can't watch a YouTube video without watching like a 30-second ad.
Well, I got ad blocker on. I never see ads.
Ad block stops your YouTube ads?
Yeah.
Actually?
Clutchness. Absolutely.
No, it
I
doesn't.
have ad blocker. I see YouTube ads.
I don't see an ad on YouTube ever.
Yeah,
do you
same.
pay for ad blocker?
No, completely free.
Huh.
I've got 2 different like types of ad blockers.
Do you pay for Google
Maybe it's
or
the
YouTube
other one.
Premium?
Nope.
I'm not sure I'm buying it.
I even know that they sold Google Premium and YouTube Premium.
I wish we had a soundboard right now because I would definitely have a button for anyone like trying to show off. Like, we got showboat alert.
Yeah.
Showboat alert.
I don't even know what Google Premium is. This guy's flexing.
But yeah, so back in the day, YouTube, like the original videos, like muffins, if you guys remember that. That's kind of shoes. I feel like those are my earliest YouTube videos. But yeah, so that's
Trash
social
Can
advertising
Man.
takes place. Trash Can Man. If you guys haven't seen, what was it? Lost and Forgotten.
What was it called? Lost and Forgotten.
Timeless.
Yeah. That's one for the ages. Check it out. But yeah, so, and then all of a sudden in 2020, you get to $500 billion plus of ad spend, on online. And now it is the number one area that companies spend on marketing. In 2018, it was like number 2 still to TV ads, but now it's past it. And now you have targeted search ads, which is kind of like what I do. And you have a social, to me, is still a little like the billboard era. You can target demographics a little bit, but with search ads, you have someone like searching it and they're asking for it. With the billboard era type ads, and even Facebook, you can narrow down the demographics, but it's a lot less specific unless you're like retargeting. So, and that's what I want to focus on is the ad creatives, like the videos ads you see on Instagram and Facebook, even the search result copy on those ads on Google, and still billboards and still junk mail and TV ads, obviously, and that's gonna be relevant coming up here with the football bowl. So yeah, that's kind of the brief history of advertising. And then, so I wanted to get through. Yeah, I think I want to do this here. So I want to, the next place we're going to go is to consumer psychology. And I want to look at some ads here before we get into the formal definitions of consumer psychology. I'm going to look at some ads that Eli put together through the decades. And we're going to give our early analysis. We'll see, hopefully, a trend we'll see is like the intelligence of the ads might age well. But we'll start with 1930s. I'm going to just do a quick screen share here. Bada bing, bada boom. You can see us 8 times over. Now. So E, you want to just explain some of these? You've gotten time to look at them?
Yeah, well, the tricky thing is that the print in all these is so small that you can't read the detail, but you can get a gist of some of the techniques, like big, bold lettering to grab your attention and visuals. The earlier in the century, the less visuals you get. So seeing something like printed books is a visual that will definitely capture your eye. This one's from the 1920s.
Oh, is it?
Or 30s.
It says 30s at the top.
Yeah, 1930s. Yeah, not much about this one. This one just says bestseller selling books. Get them for 60 cents to a couple dollars.
Well, when you're talking about an advertising too, and this is obviously in a newspaper, the only things that really matter are the big text that you can read here. It's the thing that gets you to read more, or not, or you flip past the page. So, like when I look at this, there's basically 2 types of ads that I was looking into. There's thinking ads and feeling ads. And back in the day, I would say most ads were feeling or thinking ads, which is basically like, look at the price points, like there's no ethos or pathos to or what ethos is emotions, pathos is logic, right? So there's no ethos. There's no ethos to it. It's all pathos. It's just like what's better for your wallet objectively. And something we've learned as time goes on is basically no decisions ever are made on pure logic. And you literally can't make decisions without emotion. People who lose the emotional activity in the emotional parts of their brains have harder times making decisions because there's nothing leaning them one way or another. And evolutionarily, we have developed to make comparative choices rather than objective choices. So like, because if we were hunting in the forest and you see green and then something moving against it that's slightly different green, our eyes are made to see contrast. And there's more examples. I'll go into that later. But for example, this one, like, I don't know how this one is basically playing off the prices. Do you want for only, which of these deluxe bestsellers do you want for only 59 cents to $1.98 each? And obviously graphic design is at a low. And Cheek, I know I had you look into colors. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But like the associations with these words and stuff like that is a little different. The next one here is 1940E. What do you got here? What are we looking at?
When you sent me the text, look up for funny old advertisements. At first I was a little worried because I couldn't find any funny ones, but this one was more of a cartoon than advertisement.
Yeah.
I can't read it from here, but it's about
I can read it.
All women's newspaper.
Yeah, so let me, I guess, paint a picture for our audio listeners too, is that at the very top it says, never underestimate the power of a woman. And below it, there's this proud man in overalls looking up at a chopped off stump where atop crows a rooster. And below it lies a hen in a nest. And then there's a dotted line, and then basically the progression of time shows this farmer is now looking down and saying, and the rooster is also looking back and saying, and the hen has left and all the children have followed her. And the small text says, nor the power of the magazine, which has the largest audited circulation of any magazine, given it exclusively by women.
So the gist is this guy's like looking at this rooster sticking out its chest and be like, yeah, damn, that's a dope rooster. Like, go guys, while this boring chicken is sitting down in a nest. And then next frame, the little chicken gets up and there's like a dozen little chicks following it. And the farmer's like, whoa, that's so much cooler than this boastful rooster. And then this rooster is looking at the chicken like, whoa, that's cool.
Yeah. So what? This is an ad for advertising in magazines. I'd imagine that a magazine published this and was like, you want to get your brand out there, show it in our magazine, you know? And nothing, and at the time, they were like, women read magazines. So this one is almost, I'd say this one is playing towards the thinking side of things or the feeling side of things. It's a little, oh, that's an ambulance again. Howdy doody. It's a little on the objectifying side of things. It's trying to grab your attention, but it's basically saying like, if you're trying to appeal to women, this is where you want to advertise. So it's a little more on the emotional side of things. It's not really giving much of a value statement. You know, it's not giving you numbers of how much your sales can increase or anything like that. It's just kind of saying this, basically. Now, E, tell me what this adorable child from 1950 is.
This is
saying.
It's a photo of a baby sitting in a chair. It looks like a Gerber baby.
It does.
And then below, big text. It says, help your child. And then grow up happy, normal, and well-adjusted. And then it's a advertisement for something.
It's like an encyclopedia. Is that what I'm seeing?
My take on this tactic is someone reads, help your child. And, you know, that's obviously going to grab your attention. It's the biggest thing there. And they could either move on and go, what if I'm missing something? What if I miss out on an opportunity to help my child? Or they could fall for it and just read this thing about encyclopedias.
Yeah. Yeah. Help your child. You read that. If you have a child, you're immediately going to be stopped and be like, how can I help my child? I'm curious as to what this baby is wearing. It's wearing like a
tank top.
Yeah, a tattered undershirt.
Or just like a onesie.
It looks like a man, like some 1960s man after like a hard day of work.
Which this was from the 50s.
Yeah, 1950s man. Excuse me.
Probably in some child labor at that point.
He reminds me a little of Cheek with Bedhead. He's got like the Joker wisps on the outside.
Oh yeah, now we're talking. Yeah. Now we're talking. I see it.
Bozo. All right. 1960.
The Bible story.
We got the Bible story. Stories and pictures that make the Bible live. That's kind of like the subtext at the very top, but the big text is the Bible story by Arthur S. Maxwell. The greatest stories ever told from the greatest book ever written. What a sentence. All right.
I like this one a lot because it's got that classic, like hippie 60s vibe to it. It like looks like a motel advertisement. Like it's the font. It's got that little blue star that is synonymous with that era. And it like really does justice to the era. And then Bible study, I don't know.
Well, why do you think it looks like a motel? Do you think maybe because motels aren't really advanced in their advertising methods?
Anything I've seen from that era has been in movies, and it's just popular seeing like motels with those like pinpoint stars and that font.
Yeah,
that's what I associate with.
I also I try to imagine the industries that are in, because like if you like, I used to work with optometrists, you know, and they were behind the marketing times by 20 years. All of them were.
So outdated.
They were like pushing for print ads, and we're like, we're a digital marketing agency. Like, that's not what you hired us. So like, we should still be doing print. And we're like, no, don't do that. People don't read their mail.
They hired you for digital marketing and they told you to do paper?
Yeah, because we did like graphic design as well, but they were like, we should try to do print. And we were like such a low budget agency that they were like, we kind of had to do what they wanted just to keep them as client. We felt like we had to do what they wanted to keep them as clients. But to me, the Bible industry might be one that isn't necessarily on the cutting edge of technology. So they might even be behind, because we talked about this earlier, like the 1960s is supposed to be the onset of psychology and getting into advertising. And this still seems pretty outdated even for that time. Don't you think? Like, I don't see many tactics here other than saying like the big word Bible.
Yeah, like the advertisement itself doesn't look like a big sell. Like there's nothing that's eye grabbing or anything like that. But the concept itself of like an illustrated Bible is pretty genius for the time.
Yeah, true. That is an innovative. Sometimes the product sells itself. I'll get into some examples later where like literally just changing price can change your perception of a product, and
like 5-cent cigarettes.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, I don't know. Sometimes you don't have to have an innovative product. You just have to think about how it's perceived. But this is an innovative product probably at the time, because I know Bibles didn't get translated to English until like the mid 1800s. So there's some stories to be told there. Gesundheit, cheek.
Yeah, I thought this one was funny.
What is this one? So this is 1960.
Why the godless?
The title says
books.
Why the Godless Hate These Books.
This reminds me of one of those classic like current advertisements.
Yeah, this is like your Facebook marketed towards helicopter mom advertisements.
Yeah.
And there's pictures of Mussolini, Hitler, and
Mao Zedong in it. Why the Godless Hate These Books. Right next to it, you get these 3 dictator leaders, and then there's like this kind of like arching deck of books with one open in front of it, and below it says, and why the God-fearing find daily inspiration in them. This maybe, if this were translated to current times, it'd be something like, why Biden banned this book.
10 things doctors don't want you to know.
Yeah, find out why he wants the suburbs to burn or something like that.
Just absolute fear mongering. Like,
yeah, it reminds me also of like if you've ever seen porn commercials of like, find out why this pathetic loser dweeb is getting chicks, and you're sitting here like a loser.
Yeah. Gain 10 inches in 10 minutes. Well, this one's pretty straightforward. I don't think we need to go into this one more, but this definitely plays on the emotions of the reader.
It's like there's a hidden thing that you're missing, and you need this.
Well, it features a twist too, because it says why the godless hate these books. You read that, you're like, all right, I'm gonna read a list of what books I'm supposed to kick out of my house, you know. And then the next one says, and why the God-fearing find daily inspiration in them. So it's like, oh, maybe there's a way to interpret these books in a better way. And in smaller print, great books contain the great truths that are fatal to dictators, vital to religious men and women everywhere. In these volumes, you can trace the origin and development of religious freedom, tolerance, the brotherhood of man, and other concepts by which you live. Oh, so it's selling an actual anthology of books that kind of give you a guide to life. And then at the bottom right it says, great books.
Great books that dictators hate.
It's like if you were like, I don't want to read all this junk, and you were kind of scanning down and looking at the pictures, and you see great books, and it's like, all right, I'm going to buy. Give it to me. 1970 is where we bring ourselves to. We get this cute little boy. He's got kind of smooch lips, but they're a smile a bit. He's got one shoe on. It's an adorable picture. He's got one shoe on. He's looking up at the camera. One's off. The title is Johnny Neal Just Learned to Tie His Shoes.
Subtext, a bunny taught him.
Yeah, a bunny taught him.
And in the bottom right, you see a picture of these. It's like children's books that flip open and teach you to tie shoes. And it's sold by Sears, coincidentally.
My thought process when I was picking out
that I remember.
Go ahead, Cheek.
Sears is a store that I remember. I feel like I heard a lot about as a kid, but I don't think I ever actually went to a Sears.
Yeah, I feel similar.
Cheek, I bet you went to a Sears. There was one at the, where's the Bass Pro Shop Mall in Auburn? You know that one?
That's the, what used to be called the Finger Lake Mall. I don't think it is anymore.
There was a Sears there.
There was a movie theater we went to every once in a while there too.
What was that?
Wasn't there a movie theater there too for a while that we used to go to?
Yeah, there might still be. I don't know. I feel like that mall was outdated from the day it was made.
Yeah.
I don't know. Malls are outdated these days, but.
Well, I was saying my thought process when I was going through all of these was which advertisements draw my eye the most, which ones capture my attention. And if you put a giant LB up on the page and he's looking smiling cute,
Little boy.
you know, what the big visuals are what caught my attention. And, you know, a little bit of font, a lot of visual.
We go back to this 1960s book. It looks like someone did it in Microsoft Word. This one, all of a sudden, we get some graphic design elements. I could see how they maybe tested like 100 different photos of boys with a focus group, and they're like, "This is the one that did well with the focus groups." I can see where there's some thought went into this. The text that shows tells the story, sells the idea. Like, as a parent, you look at this and you say, "All right, I'm looking down at this smiling boy. I can see my own smiling LB or LG, and it's frustrating to get them to learn how to tie their own shoes, and here might be an easy solution. All it takes is one book, you know?
All it takes is one book. For our listeners, LB is little boy, LG is little girl.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Now we get to the Chagautes.
What do we have here?
Chagaute.
And all of a sudden, men started learning that sex sells. And that really, the one thing I've learned through all this is that people are simpletons. When you look at people in the masses and like the data that you can collect by just putting boobs out there and how much more it sells, it is stupid. People are stupid. Like,
yeah. You ever see like people who are trying to pirate a movie, or they look up a stream and you get a lot of like porn advertisements like, why your boyfriend should never play this game, and it's always chicks with like warhammers on them, you know, gazoingas. And I just think these exist because simpletons with drool coming out of their mouth see big boobs and go, oh. They drag the cursor over there and click it.
People are so simple that way. Like, and when I was like, I think consumer psychology is really interesting, but it's super manipulative because you look at data in like a mass sense and you determine how people will act. And as much as it is manipulative, it's also the consumer's fault for just being absolute sheep and just like following these stupid things like this. The only thing you can see in this ad is boobs. Like, you see the face, but like the brightest thing is the boobs on it. Like, it's edited clearly for that. Like, and you go, I didn't even read the title. Witches, warlocks, and Ouija boards.
What?
Cheek, I want to hear your take on this one before E gets into it.
Wait, so is this, they're selling Ouija boards? Is that what this is?
I don't know. The font is too small to read, but
the first line on it is,
I can't read
join
it.
the new cult of the opulent. I think it's like a book club for like demonic books. But they use someone with big tatas as like the sale. Like, how more blatant can you get with your advertising? Like, this has nothing to do with it.
Somebody was smart.
I mean, fact is, as soon as someone sees that, they're going to see that. They're going to want to read it. Once they start reading, that's a curveball. Witches, warlocks, and Ouija boards. You got to get context. You got to keep reading.
I feel like us three have a difference in perspective on this stuff, and we can see, obviously, and there's a lot of people like this. I can see, obviously, that we're trying to do. But for us, it would be, I would almost want to buy it because of the blatant nature of this ad. Be like,
right.
Who are the rad people behind this advertising? They're like, how do we sell this without making it seem dumb or like without estranging people? And some guy is just like, let's just throw some tatas on the big screen and we'll just see what happens there. Like, if you're listening, whoever the masterminds behind this commercial are, you're probably 90 now.
Do we have a year that this was from?
Yeah, it's 1970. So if you were in the advertising business in 1970 and you threw tatas on your ads, Give us a page or a fax. That might be the only way you know how to communicate at this point. Or send a Falcon. Should we move on?
The 1970s, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I feel like they nailed this advertisement style.
Ouija boards.
Yeah, sex, drugs, and Ouija boards.
Ouija boards.
All right.
You know some suckbags for reading this one.
You really picked a brand of advertising for this one. All right. Tell us. I want to paint. I guess I'll paint the picture first. It's a grayed out newspaper ad, it looks like, again. Or magazine, we don't know. In the biggest text that we've seen yet. Like, you could see this from the top of Mount Vesuvius.
Comparatively
to pick up
text.
Girls, exclamation point. And then the headlines of these articles, of like the paragraphs below it, you see that there's a picture of the book in the middle that says how to pick up girls as well. There's a bunch of like good looking girls, like all sitting there looking like they're waiting for you to pick them up, I guess, as the 70s viewed girls. Discovering exactly how to pick up beautiful women. Interviews with 25 beautiful girls. 25. Wow. Pick up girls anywhere in Italices. Yeah. Over 100 foolproof techniques. Wow. That's the next biggest text to the title. Foolproof. Literally. Because fools are reading this book. These are able to circumnavigate your natural being.
Of being dumb.
This is just another example of not only sex selling in advertising, but sex selling as a product as well. Mm-hmm. Like, and no cool guy actually writes this book. No one that's actually cool writes this book. No. Some guy who just got his first girlfriend thinks he figured out every single trick to communicating with the opposite gender. And now all of a sudden he's writing books about it.
Well, this was interesting to me because I know that pickup artists exist currently, and I don't know much about the subject, but I've seen
some people call them magicians as well.
Yeah, TikToks or YouTube videos of pickup artists, and it is like the cringiest corner of internet. Like they are not normal people. No one should listen to them. Yeah. It's really like typically malicious and
it's over masculine.
Yeah,
all the time.
Very toxic content. Yeah. And so seeing this like 1970s commercial, seeing the like the origins of it was interesting. It was a have to because that people are paying attention to that. Dude. People are reading that and going, "Oh, I'm missing out on something. I got to figure out how to pick up chicks."
If you haven't yet, go find one of those toxic male pickup gurus, one of those guys, and just watch. Like, they always have this kind of thing going on. They're just like pinching everything in.
Pinching their tits.
Getting everything bigger than it is. They're such workout freaks. And on top of that, they're always telling you what women want. They never ask. They're never telling you like, ask her this, ask her that, like that kind of thing. They're always telling you exactly what women want. They're like, I can tell you exactly how to get into her pants. All you got to do is sweat every day at 6 a.m. in the morning and then talk smooth, but ignore her and then don't talk to her. And then it's just like
neglect her, make her feel lonely, demean her, make her feel worthless. And then she's going to come to you and she's going to have to beg for you. Garbage.
Do you remember that show on MTV? There was Bret Michaels was teaching nerds how to pick up chicks called like the Bret Michaels School Bus of Love. It was the most absurd show.
Wow, no.
School Bus of Love. Pretty good title though.
I got to look up the name of the show. This was hilarious. Bret Michaels was like the lead singer in
to like seep into the ethics of advertising it's kind of relevant here because it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was there a market for it first? Did someone make the market for it? And then usually the escalation is always, you can always blame the advertisement for the escalation because like they're the ones that embody it. But like,
played on that.
yeah, whoever makes the first ad and it sells, then like, it's hard to say like what one's first. Like, it's unethical to sell this kind of thing. It just does not acknowledge, like, it's one thing to be like how to be confident as a person, not necessarily in relation to attracting a soulmate, but like just how to be confident. It's one thing to say, this is what women want. They want a dominant male with giant biceps to crush their feet and like just shit like that. It's like there's nothing. It doesn't make sense. And what I said just didn't make sense. But that's why I'm not one of those gurus, I guess. Oh man, I don't know. I'm gonna move on. Oh, that's the last one you got, E.
Yeah, it is.
That was kind of a fun portion of what I wanted to get into. And I think it shows that, like, I don't know, advertising was still very simple. Like, these might be funny examples, but it's not out of the realm of what people were doing. Like, even big tobacco companies had some slender woman with a cigarette in a bathing suit, smoking.
I think that older vintage commercials, like the old Marlboro Man, are so, like, those are such dope commercials, and dude, it romanticizes everything. And like at this point, you can't do that because, you know, like people have to. Yeah, it's wrong. Like, you gotta, now they're selling pictures of like cancer-ridden lungs and stuff on packs of cigarettes because that's honest advertising. But before all that regulation, you had some like very creative, very interesting stuff that actually sold. And one thing I'll note about this is I saw a lot of similarities in these old commercials or old advertisements compared to what's going on now, like bold fonts, help your child, and why these bunguses hate this stuff, you know, stuff like that. How to pick up girls.
Yeah, and it's all, there's a lot of graphic design elements and understanding what people see first. Like, this part of the psychology is understanding how people perceive it. Like, you could have something that's like, this pill saves your life, and the next ad is, this pill grows your penis. And that ad could do better. That ad could sell more things just because the graphic design is better, the presentation is better, how the problem is proposed. Like that kind of thing. Like maybe people don't feel like their lives need to be saved, but the Viagra one makes you feel like that everyone else's penis is 10 times larger. So then all of a sudden you're like, all right, well, my life doesn't need saving. That doesn't seem like a relevant problem to me, but it seems like everyone else's penis is larger. So now I need a Viagra pill, you know? And like the lifestyle is you get to sit in an identical bathtub next to your wife and hold hands. Like that's the Viagra Cialis type like lifestyle that you get going for. But, but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I remember seeing in my research probably the coolest ad I've ever seen. It was in that like granular new color type. It was a new advertisement in color, and it was this cowboy guy.
Yeah.
And he like strokes a match, looks at it, and you like follow the match up to the cigarette. And he lights a cigarette, and it zooms out, and it's just a guy in just like sick cowboy gear, just looking fucking badass in the wilderness. Lights it, takes a couple puffs, makes like a grimace, like he didn't even enjoy it. But he's out in the wilderness. Then you follow him as he walks over to a fire, kneels down, kind of pokes it, and then kind of sits back and smokes a cigarette again. And then it just pans out to Marlboro Reds.
Oh, what a sell, baby!
It's just like, I want to do that. I want to do that right now. Yeah.
Are there any advertisements these days that are on TV that you guys actually enjoy watching or don't find annoying at all? Because for the most part, advertisements are annoying. Commercials on TV are annoying. But every once in a while, I feel like there's one that I actually don't mind watching. For me, it's those Geico commercials right now about like homeowners insurance or whatever, where there's like some mundane couple standing in front of their home. They're like, we got a great deal on this house. It's in a great neighborhood, but there is an issue with the fencing. And then they just like cut to two people like fencing in their backyard. I think those are clever.
Those are funny. Geico.
Ooh, you chucked that one up, buddy. Boy.
It's like I got marbles in my throat.
Marbles or Marlboros?
Geico, Progressive, State Farm. The insurance companies seem to have it down.
They do really well, yeah.
Other than the Flow Progressive commercials, I hate
those ones.
I would rather see just like ants crawling on a log than see the fucking Flow ever again in my life. But yeah, funny commercials are what get me cheeked, to answer your question. And we'll get into that. That's like there are types of persuasion in because nowadays any good commercial that isn't one of those like side effects may include one of those commercials. Any good commercial. Yeah. Side effects may include an enlarged penis. Side
effects may include a shriveled up, useless penis.
Your penis will transfer to your nose area. But that's kind of like the the ethos of everything is taking dominance. But I want to, before we get into that, I want to first dive into what let's go back to our faces here on the screen share. For those listening, start watching. Hold
on, before we move on, you talked about the Marlboro commercial and how dope that was. I just want to say the Top Gun director, Tony Scott, before he made Top Gun, he got hired because he made some bad-ass commercials for the car company Saab. Is that how you pronounce it? Saab?
Saab, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Saab.
Yeah, Saab.
Yeah. And like that was what got him the directing job for Top Gun, I'm pretty sure, because it's like a comparison with jets, but look through this a little bit. I highly recommend everyone looks up Tony Scott Saab commercials because they are just so sexy. Like he eroticizes machinery in a way that everyone can understand.
Oh, wow. It's like silhouettes of
like
people
on YouTube, you want
jumping into
people to look it up?
Yeah.
We'll publish this on our social media, so if you're listening, keep a lookout. It's just like silhouettes jumping into cockpits, and the cockpit's like automatically lowering, and then like the doors of like a hangar opening up, and like do you even see the plane flying? It's just kind of like it's the penis parts of the plane that they keep featuring, like the pointy nose, that kind of thing. But then they always
phallic mechanicry.
They show at the end is sick. They show the fire of the engine blaring while like the murky heat tones like elevate off the concrete.
Top Gun style.
And then it pans up and you see this Saab like flooring forward while a jet takes off above it. Like, gosh,
yeah, I love that. But commercials currently, I don't see a lot of them because I don't watch a lot of TV and I got ad blocker on. So
I got ad blocker on.
But I remember watching the Super Bowl. I'd always be most stoked for those commercials, and I just remember it just hasn't been as good as it used to be. Like there was a golden age of when I was originally watching them in like the early 2000s where it would always crack me up. And then I just remember being disappointed every year. I just feel like advertisements have gotten worse.
Yeah, I think so. I also think that like the market for advertisements have changed. Like it used to be that you could just be funny and there was no triple bottom line for businesses. There was not like this whole ethos that you had to appeal to. You could just be funny. And the Super Bowl was to be like loud and shock valued and funny. And now everything is so political and so politicized that the only way to appeal to people is to either agree or disagree with their politics, you know? And so now at the Super Bowl, you see all these like 3-part segments of people helping each other.
Yeah, and it's got to be heartwarming and like based off of family values. Oh.
So like, yeah. That's not why you listen to this podcast. Fuck you.
We hate families.
But yeah, that takes, we've covered some of it, so it'll be quick. But the next part I wanted to talk about was like consumer psychology, and like there's all these crazy studies that are done that like you may think as a listener right now, like, oh, this doesn't apply to me. Like I'm not this simple. I don't think this simply, but it applies in masses, in majority. But there's these experiments done. Like if you set up a bank so that one line is really long and one line has literally no one in it, but they're both open, and you set it up so that people can just start coming in, but everyone else is actors, people go to the longer line because they'll think that something is wrong with the shorter line. Things like that. There's a psychology study that says literally just by raising the price, you can make it feel like you're actually like buying a better product. And an example of that is like Beats headphones. Beats headphones have shitty audio. They do. And they, like I was looking at the studies on it, they have bad audio. They're the same thing as Skull Candy, which is a very low budget brand.
But they're by Dre.
Beats sells. Yeah, but exactly. So Beats sells for like hundreds of dollars per product. And they found out that it takes $10 to produce their product, to make it, which is less than it takes Skull Candy to. And they sell theirs at a lower price point. But they did such a good job with like the ergonomics of the design and tying it to Dre and athletes and pushing it out there from the very beginning that people perceived it at such a high price, and they're just killing that.
Are they still currently killing it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's so dope.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Apple does the same thing. Like Android is perceived as like the budget brand, the common brand. They have a lot of the better features. One thing they lack is like they lack is that not everyone uses it.
Oh yeah, you get people making fun of green text users all the time.
The Android versus iPhone. Yeah, but the thing with Android versus iTone is just like simplicity of use, I feel like. Or maybe that's what they've got you to believe.
That's what they got you to believe. Like Google rules the world and their phones still don't beat iPhone because, I mean, they have to kind of taken a market share of like the developers phone, you know, but like people say they buy iPhones for the better camera. Well, Android actually has the better camera. They say they buy it for the better apps. Well, Android actually has more apps and less vetting of the apps. So you have more like open sourcing. They say they buy it for blah, blah, blah. I mean, and they buy it for space. Well, Android has expandable space. You can have memory cards and stuff in there. It's better computer. Like the only reason that Apple succeeds is because more people have Apple. And it's this like rolling ball theory where like everyone's below this like rock that's rolling down a hill. And you don't want to be the person without the blue text messages. You don't want your notes to not sync with your laptop. You know, like their compatibility with their mediocre products is what keeps them high value. And they want to be a high value product, so they raise their price. And they spend a lot of money on marketing where Android doesn't as much. Samsung kind of catches up a little bit. But the other thing is that like there's a lot of examples of like Best Buy has their Insignia brand of TV. But people buy Samsung for like 30% more because Samsung sells more TVs, and in the mind of the consumer, there's less room to fail if you buy something that more people buy. So like and the reason I bring up Insignia versus Samsung is because they're manufactured by the same company. Like the same manufacturer in China or whatever it is makes the TVs, and then there's just a sticker that's slapped on that's different. Like I have an Insignia TV at the Man Cave Cheek, and it was $400 or $600 less than a Samsung counterpart of the same TV. And it was just because Samsung was slapped on the brand. And the reason that is because people feel way more comfortable buying what everyone else does. And it's not because they think it's going to be way better, but because they think everyone buys Samsung. So the cost of failure, or the percent of chance of failure, is much less. And
there's an element to that of reliability and knowing that product is going to work. Like, because there have been plenty of times where I've bought the cheapest option and it like breaks right away or tastes different or whatever it is, and then I'll buy like, you know, the more expensive one, and like it just is more dependable. And so there are plenty of times where I can see why seeing a more expensive price or a reliable name, like if I saw a Best Buy TV versus Samsung, I'm like, I don't know crap about Best Buy TVs. I'm just going to assume off the bat that it's not as reliable and it's going to be cheaper and more of a throwaway money.
Well, that's kind of the point, is that these TVs are identical, minus the sticker slapped on them. So why did you buy one over the other? Because of the brand name, right? And so that's why companies put so much money into their brand and their awareness and things like that, and making it seem like they're the popular choice, because you'll end up buying them for $600 more. They'll make more margin on the same thing just because they have an identified name. If you did, like, the only reason I know this is because a Best Buy guy told me, and then I looked it up at some point. But if you trusted Samsung and then went home before you bought it and researched and found out that the exact same TV is sold under a different name for less money, wouldn't you go and buy it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just like, what are you willing to do the research for? A TV, I would do research for to see what the best buy is. But if I'm buying like cough syrup and I'm going NyQuil versus 7-Eleven brand, I'm like, I don't know. I might just go with NyQuil because I know it's going to get the job done.
Well, that's why you do brand campaigns. And there's been examples of like Advil and ibuprofen, like Walgreens ibuprofen, are the same exact composition. You can look at the back, same composition, same exact product, same exact results. But people will buy whatever price level indicates how much they're hurting. So if they have a $10 headache, they'll buy the $10 Advil. But if they have a little headache, they'll buy the $3 ibuprofen because perceptually they think it works less often or less as well. Just because the brand name, the point of doing brand campaigns is so that when people have to make a choice, they choose you, basically. So you look at Advil, which you've seen thousands of ads about joint pain, headaches, hangovers, whatever. You see all that stuff. And then you go and buy one day when you have a headache or joint pain and you see that versus ibuprofen. You may logically know that they're the same exact thing, but emotionally you can't make that decision without the Advil's help of saying you should buy this brand. And I don't know, knowing that now, that might change your buying decision. And that's something I want to get to at some point, is how awareness of this might help you as a consumer. But to touch on a couple more things about your consumer psychology, one of the bigger things today is the Oceans test. And I know I had the bozos take it with me, but if you want to go take this as a listener online, it's called the Oceans test, OCEANS test. It kind of predicts your who you are, how you make decisions, your extrovertedness, that kind of thing. It's a test on your openness, your conscientiousness, your extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. So it's kind of, it boils you down into a buyer persona, and a lot of companies can use this so that you can target someone with a high openness value, because you think that they are open to trying new things. So if you're saying, all right, you're sick of your existing product, I want to target people with high openness values, and I want to say that, oh, all right, these people are going to adopt this faster. And this plays exactly into the adoption curve, which I want to touch on, but then we'll go back to the Big Five Ocean analysis. The adoption curve is kind of like, picture yourself on this buyer curve where most people buy things when early adopters and innovators have already started buying them. So if you're the early majority, you're kind of in that top part of the curve. Picture it as a curve that starts low on the y-axis, goes up, and then drops back down a little bit to low on the y-axis again as time goes on. Early majority are the people that buy. Can you pull up a curve to show the people, Jay? I don't think it's needed. I could, I guess, but it's basically just a bell curve. It goes up and then back down to the bottom. And in the very top, in the middle is the early majority, where these people basically say, all right, I've seen a lot of people. These are the Amazon review readers, which is admittedly like me when I buy on Amazon, is that you look at a lot of people bought it. You're not going to buy it if it's on the early stages. It's same people with the vaccine right now that say, I don't know, I'm going to wait till a lot of people get it. I want to see what the effects are. Same people say the same thing, like, I don't know about these shoes. I want to wait till other people get it and review them and see if I want it. Those are the early majority. That's kind of the most common buying category. Then there's laggards. Those are the people that in my opinion, are always adopting trends past when they're hip. You know, like the guy that should like, oh, have you heard this song? And you're like, yeah, I was listening to that song 8 months ago. You know, that kind of person. That's the laggards. Those are the people that need everyone to trust something, to like a song. They need to hear everyone likes that shoe, is in that style, then they buy
the Lotwin effect.
I mean, you know, I was thinking about it too. He's exactly what I think of. And you can be in different categories of these based on the industry. So some people are tech forward, but fashion backwards. That kind of thing. But then there's the innovators. That's the front of the curve. That's the first people to buy it. They take the biggest risks because they don't know. That's, you go into Amazon or eBay and you see someone with a very low price, but they have almost no reviews, and you're like, all right, let's just take this on. Let's take a risk here. And you might win, you might lose. You might win big, you might lose big. The early adopters are after that. They see a couple of innovators, a couple of the people with those leopard print slip-on shoes. They see a couple of those guys walking around, and all of a sudden the early adopters are like, all right, I like that. And then the early majority, which is the mass, like I said before, says, all right, everyone's wearing leopard shoes. I want to hop on this. That's kind of with the wave. That's surfing right there. That's surfing, baby. You jump on. You got the leopard shoes with everyone else. Laggards, everyone stopped wearing leopard shoes like a week ago. Like that's so last week, and laggards are tossing on those LSs. But yeah, that's the adoption curve. So back to the big five ocean analysis. Openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Excuse my diction. Yeah, let me turn on a little screen share here because we're gonna bring it back up.
Let me tell you a little tale.
Let me tell you a little tale. Cheek, this is yours.
There once was a Cheek. His name was Sean.
Where is Eli's?
I couldn't email it because I didn't have. I got service now. If you need me
to. I just texted you, Cheek. I said, "You're good. You're good, cook." All right. So we took the oceans test. Remember, it's openness is the O, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. So, Cheek, do you agree with your results?
I think they're pretty accurate, yeah. Do you agree? Yeah. I think it's hard to judge yourself. I think the better question is, you know me very well. Do you agree with my results?
Well, that's the hard part, is that like, I kind of wanted us to take it for each other too. I didn't want to make us do too much work, but like I think it would have been funny to take it for each other, to see the results we got and see if it matched up to our original personality scores. But if you're listening and you take it for your friend and your friend takes it for you, let us know how that all matches up. In terms of this, Cheek, you got a 71% for openness, which describes your tendency to think abstractly in complex ways. High scores tend to be creative, adventurous, and intellectual. I have no idea. E, you got a really high score on this one. You got a
96.
A 96. Wow. I got an 83 and Cheek got a 71.
Boy,
so I would say relative to each other, that's I would say that's accurate. Because E, you definitely
yeah.
You definitely think in the most open way. So then I guess this is a good way to do this. We'll rank it against each other. So C is conscientiousness. Conscientiousness describes a person's ability to exercise self-discipline and control in order to pursue their goals. High scores are organized and determined and are able to forego immediate gratification. So E, you scored.
I got 46.
46. I got a 42. I was bad at that one. Cheek, you got a 50. I'd say none of us scored well on that, but Cheek, I think once again that makes a lot of sense.
Still.
What's that, Cheek?
I don't think like I think that those numbers all being they're very close. I don't really take too much weight from me technically being ahead of you. I think we're all pretty low scoring there. I
mean, it's definitely low scoring for us. I I will say that order makes sense. Like, Cheek, you're the guy taking off drinking this month. You're the guy who hasn't done tobacco products in a couple months. Like, that, to me, makes a little sense. Like, you have a little more self-control. I mean, E doesn't do that stuff too, so it makes sense to me at least that I'm last in your first.
Well, it makes sense to me in that we're all really young and we're just figuring out what we want to do and actually setting goals for that. Because like I know that I'm pretty shit at conscientiousness. Like a lot of times I'll do just what I feel like in the moment, and I think my biggest struggle is staying organized and disciplined on task.
I would say, yeah, that those do seem like opposites. Like young kids are often more impulsive, and I personally I like being impulsive. I think there's a good balance, but I don't know. Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe if you're plus 60, you take this test. Tell us what you get on the C. I don't know if we have any plus 60 listeners.
Ooh, if you're a 90 on that, you are a hardo.
Yeah,
that's some military level stuff.
Do you think we know any? I
feel like that's just like
could be a C.
So yeah, you'd be up there. I don't know about 90.
Cheek, what's that?
Nothing. Never mind. I'm trying to compare like who I think like stage of life is very important with C. Like, I think if I had taken this like 2 or 3 years ago, I would have been at 20%, you know? Like, I think as you decide to, I don't know, as you get older, I think that there are decisions that you make that will increase that C up to a higher number the older you get.
I agree. I think that, yeah, I mean, that's one of the
but
purposes.
There's probably a ceiling there.
Say it again.
There's probably like a ceiling as far as how much age will influence, you know, one of these specific categories. At the end of the day, you are who you are. And you know what I mean? Like there's a plateau.
Yeah. I mean, the truth behind this is like I said, we're looking at this from a marketing perspective. So like there's a reason that demographics include age ranges because your priorities are different in each age range. So, and these change, and you have to, and the idea of this is that you have to know who you're targeting. So we're transitioning here from the side of consumerism and how consumers think and how behavioral psychology works and how you have these herd mentalities and how you can think of things based on like a predatorial sense and looking at differences between things. And I still haven't hit that yet. So I got to go back to that in a second, but let's look at the extroversion. And I think we all have pretty high extroversion ratings. Eli, yours was
67.
Yours was low, E. That's low for someone that is on a host of a podcast.
I'm an extroverted extrovert.
Introverted extrovert.
Introvert extrovert.
Yeah. But that's true. That's also something new that people have been discovering is that you can be a combination of the two, not just one or the other. But yeah, E, you're in the 60s, which makes sense to me. My mom has listened to this podcast and been like, Eli's quiet. You got to give him some more chances to talk.
Thank you, Mama Greg.
Yeah. So I've been trying to give you those shots if I can, but you've also been super interruptive and rude. So, but my extrovertedness was 79%, which is a huge increase. And it may not come to anyone's surprise that Cheeks was all the way up to 96%.
Skyrocketed.
Which I think is super accurate. And when I first took these tests, I was like, I don't know if I feel accurate about this. But now that we've been juxtaposed with each other, I think I'm liking how these results have come out now. Cheek, do you agree with that?
I'm surprised yours wasn't high. I'm surprised yours wasn't higher, Jay, for extrovert.
I think I'm an extroverted introvert also because like I think I can put on a face and be extroverted and like put on the act of an extrovert, but I get my energy a lot of the times from being introverted because extroversion and introversion is about where you get your energy from, not necessarily what you're good at. So like I honestly get my energy a lot of the times from being alone and getting like just self creative time and things like that. And so I think that's why I kind of fall in the middle of you two there.
Oh, and let's read this for a second, because I was interested by that one, because I thought I would have gone much lower. It says extroversion describes a person's inclination to seek stimulation from the outside world, especially in the form of attention from other people. Extroverts engage actively with others to earn friendship, admiration, power, status, excitement, romance. Introverts, on the other hand, conserve their energy. I always get confused because I don't know how to describe myself as an introvert, extrovert. I always thought I was introverted, but at the same time, like I'm always very quiet inside like classes and areas of like authority, because I don't know, that's just what authority does. It like saps the energy out of you. Yeah. And then I always feel most comfortable in situations where like I'm not really, I wouldn't say that I'm like looking for attention or stimulation, but like I'm just bored and I feel comfortable being myself.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if people can relate to that, but
yeah. I mean, I don't know. All I know is that like this definition set is where you find your energy from. And it sounds like you find an energy from the combination. Like, I know you love personal time with people and group time with people, and you also love your time alone. So it makes sense to me that you'd be an extroverted introvert, because there's a new definitions arising of like combinations of the two.
Yeah.
But I would say you're predominantly extroverted, which it shows true on your graph. You're still
these are the facts.
This is your dog, and I love it.
How does it feel to be 96% in that, Johnny?
I think it makes sense. I definitely am an attention seeker. I definitely gain energy from being in crowds. I draw energy from the crowd around me.
You and Eli tie for the most of any category. Eli was 96 at openness, which again was the tendency to. So you're as extroverted as Eli is abstract.
Wow.
Yeah.
One abstract way of looking at it.
Yeah. So the next one is agreeableness. Agreeableness describes a person's tendency to put others' needs ahead of their own and to cooperate rather than compete with others. People who are high in agreeableness experience a great deal of empathy and tend to get pleasure out of serving and taking care of others. Cheek. You got a 67 on that one. You dropped. Oh, I got even worse. I got 50%.
I dropped.
Selfish boyos. I think mine should be higher.
Higher than 75?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. There was a specific question, which was, I know it related to this, which is, I will take care of myself before I take care of others. And I was like super inaccurate. Like I always take care of myself before other people, because I know that I'll only be able to help people my best when I'm doing my best. But I think that just like took away a huge chunk from my agreeableness.
Yeah. That's another thing. If you're listening, I want to hear what your thoughts are on like the agreeableness of these tests, like the problems you have with these types of questions. And I think there are probably different versions of the ocean test. Like I think we kind of took a pretty light version of it. But I always wonder when I'm taking these tests, like, is this question loaded? Like I'm always double thinking the questions. Like, is this loaded? How is this trying to get me to think?
There was one that said, on a scale of 1 to 5, how humble am I? And I was like, wait.
Would a humble person
not
answer
humble? Yeah, it doesn't seem humble saying you're humble on
it. Yeah, I don't get those. Some of them I overthink. They're meant to be answered, I think, like, boom, answer. Question, boom, answer. Yeah. It'd be almost better if someone
they
asked
want
you
like
the
a
question.
gut check, I feel like.
Yeah. I try to do that. That's why I think it'd be interesting for us to take each other's at some point, just to get a view of what we think of each other.
Yeah, get like a median.
See if we should still be
that
friends.
That could be dangerous.
All right. Well, the N is neuroticism. Neuroticism describes a person's tendency to experience negative emotions, including fear, sadness, anxiety, guilt, and shame. While everyone experiences these emotions from time to time, some people are more prone to them than others. That's the intro paragraph. Neuroticism. I ranked a 60. Cheek. You're euphoric.
Cheek.
You're at a
euphoric.
You're at a 27. How do you explain yourself?
Read the definition again.
All right. So the neuroticism describes a person's tendency to experience negative emotions, including fear, sadness, anxiety, guilt, and shame. While everyone experiences these emotions from time to time, some people are more prone to them than others. So it's basically your tendency to experience negative emotions, and you are very not likely to experience negativity. Do you agree with that?
I think I do. I think that I'm a lot like I'll do a really good job of suppressing negative emotions and like anxiety. I feel like I don't deal with anxiety a lot. I don't feel like I'm an anxious person. I do a good job of like keeping it at bay. And then like there's a little bit of time in there where you do feel sad and you do have like an intense moment, but then you just push it away again. And I feel like I'm pretty good at that, which may not be a healthy thing, but I don't think that I'm a sad person.
That's something we have to talk about.
Problematic.
I feel sad, but I just push it aside.
I just bury it all super deep so I don't have to deal with it. And that's why I'm so happy.
All right. Writing this down. Dealing with emotions. New topic. All right.
Gee, that 27 is about to turn to a 96, I feel like.
One thing I do like about these topics is I feel like mine always spur off of old topics. Like this is a lot about reality and perception and things like that. And we've talked about truth and things like that. So I think it would be interesting to talk about dealing with emotions. I have one on my list called dealing with death. And that kind of thing. And I think that could spawn off into dealing with sadness and things.
Yeah, that'd be a good topic.
Such. But yeah, Cheek, you got to work on that.
Good luck with it. Suck it up.
Yeah. We're losing connection.
Cheek.
But yeah, so did we cover everyone? E, you had all right, let's bring up yours. E, I know we've only been showing cheeks, so we've been putting Cheek on the spotlight on the screen share.
Cheek stats displayed up there.
Yeah,
I got a 35.
E got 35%.
I'll say there's a difficult combination. I come from a super neurotic family. Like mom is always thinking about worst case scenario. Like recently we went to Joshua Tree National Park, having a great time. And every couple of minutes, my mom goes, a lot of people have died here. Like, careful about climbing on the rocks. Just like so neurotic about the situation. And my siblings are the same way. So I guess as a result, I was very much rejected all that and tried just throwing caution to the wind and not thinking about negatives. But at the same time, I did suffer from depression for several years. So I've got this situation with 35%, which I guess makes sense.
Yeah. That's so my mom, I feel like our parents are very similar to each other, by the way. I don't know if I ever said that.
Yeah,
but,
I agree. I agree too.
Like, I don't know. That's something to get in later. But my mom is also very negative, and I got 60%. I don't know if I said that or not. But I feel like I got on the other end of that spectrum. Like you resisted that feeling, and then I rode the wave of that. Like I inherited that feeling.
I rode the wave of neuroticism. Negative emotions, baby.
You're gonna get killed by that spider. But yeah, and like I also went through it. Like I've never been diagnosed it, but like as a dark period, I guess is the only way I can put it. E, I don't want to compare it to yours, but like but it's weird to me that I scored 60 because like I don't ever feel super sad. I think maybe I like acknowledge those emotions. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why I scored a 60. I don't feel like I'm a negative person. What do you guys think? Rate my negativity.
It sounds like you both have some demons in you. Oh shit, that you're not dealing with.
Cheek, you and I need to have a focus group, and we need to meet halfway through.
Jay, I feel like you're much more happy than your 60% of sadness. Like, especially
I think for me that I've. Go ahead.
You go.
Well, I think for me, I've had super, super negative emotions. And so maybe I understand them. And even today, when I don't have those emotions, I still like entertain them. And I still let them like, and I still want to understand them. Like, I never want to be someone who goes away after feeling that kind of thing and being like, no, everything's happy. You know, like I still want to understand those things. I don't feel necessarily that way, but I still understand it. And so maybe I think it's the way the questions are asked that I can say, like, I don't know, maybe I think there was one that was like, do you still feel negatively or something like that? And I would agree because I acknowledge that those emotions are there for me. And I don't know. That's my best explanation. I don't really know. I don't like feel that way necessarily, but I can acknowledge it. And I'm really bad at answering these quizzes without just being.
I think you overthink them a lot.
I think you're right. That's what I was gonna. That was the way I was trying to word them.
I think they're too deep. When we were talking about earlier, it needs to just be like you analyze the question from every point of view that it could be potentially asked from, not just in its simplest form, which is how it should be answered. Your initial
Absolutely.
response.
And I wish for me there was a form of this test where it asks me out loud and gives me 5 seconds to answer. Because I take things in faster when I listen to them rather than read them. And so I'd rather hear it and then like answer it. But we've gotten so into this test. And if you guys are okay with it, I'm going to move on from that.
Can we move on to a pee-pee break?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. That's why we're boys, baby.
All right. This is a pee-pee break coming up. Wait, hold on. Before we go on the pee-pee break, I'm assuming we're going to split this into 2 episodes. Let me look at the time. Oh, yeah. We're splitting this into 2 episodes. So I want to thank you for listening to part 1 of Podcast Bozo Season 3, Episode 5. Cheek just revealed himself to us.
If you just finished this episode, you like what you heard, please reach out to Cheek and help him deal through his troubling emotions.
But yeah, so this first
Jay's
part,
got the troubling emotions, not me.
Yeah, Jay, you got the demons in you.
Yeah, I've got demons festering in my veins. But
Jay, those demons are playing double dutch in your belly, all right?
But thank you for listening to Season 3, Episode 5, Part 1 of the Advertising Consumer Psychology episode. We'll be back on Wednesday or Thursday, depending on what we decide, with the next part of this episode. And we hope to see you there. Thank you very much. And things we'll be talking about there, just as a preface, is we'll be talking about what advertisers do with your emotions. We talked about the emotional side, the consumer side, the history. The next part we'll be talking about what the advertisers do with that information, how they exploit it, and then the ethics of it all. So stay tuned. It's gonna be good.
Oh, yeah.